Hey, what's poppin', y'all? Welcome to today's episode of Across the Nation with Jason. Right now, I kind of want to get into a lot of stuff because this has been a really eventful week in terms of tech, and I just kind of want to start diving into it. But yeah, so I'd like to thank our sponsor for today's video, which is ShoePirate.com. Shoe Pirate is an online platform for buying and reselling shoes online. And it's a really great resource. Find your best shoes at a very affordable price. Thank you to them for today's video. So then I kind of want to start getting into a lot of this stuff in terms of a lot of the controversy surrounding Parler and Amazon Web Services. A lot of the new revelations that have came out with Facebook and Twitter information, along with actually a lot of just stuff that comes to your personal data and information. So I'm just going to start getting into it. So as you know, this week, Donald Trump has recently been banned from Twitter. He got banned from Twitter for a variety of reasons, basically inciting a lot of violence, a lot of things that were going very poorly in terms of this storming of the Capitol recently. But what I really want to dive into is a lot of this stuff surrounding Parler in the news. So Parler, right, is a website and an app that recently has been getting a lot of fire because a lot of people that have been leaving Twitter have been moving on to Parler. A lot of the conservative leaning people, a lot of the right, and this is what's been really crazy is it has been booted from Amazon Web Services. Because basically, if you don't know what Amazon Web Services is, what they do is they basically you pay them money and you put their app on their servers because they basically paid up front to basically have a lot of technical bandwidth for their company, and they decided to start sharing that with other companies, right? So with all of that being said, it's insane. So I'm gonna try to close out of this, and then I can read you some of the stuff from the article. I'll just go from a very left leaning article from CNN. Um, Man, this is making me really irritated. It's only letting me see this little bar instead of the whole thing. Awesome. So basically, it goes in. It's moving Parler from its cloud hosting services. The decision was because um, it they wow. They didn't even give a reason. So basically, they said, actually, they did a little bit later, but by the time that it was done, it says we've seen a steady increase in this violent content on your website, all of which violates our terms. It is clear that Parler does not have an executive process. Oh my gosh, this is driving me insane. By the way, there's a bunch of ads popping up on CNN, so that's kind of ironic. It violates the terms. It is clear that Parler does not have an effective process to comply with the Amazon Web Services terms of service. So they have officially gotten kicked off of Amazon's. Oh my gosh! So this is really big for a couple of reasons. So the violent content that they're talking about, there's a lot of movements that are just being people saying things, right? And this is where it becomes a very interesting point, and where I think we need to start highlighting stuff, especially in the tech space, right? So what happened with Parler could happen to any company if they aren't living up to their standards. And Amazon could very easily make their standards very hard and unobtainable for a business. That's why I'm never going to use Amazon Web Services for Ocean Connection, because I know that in a day they could just say, "Oh, you know what? We actually had a change of plans here. We aren't going to go and do this stuff." Right? And it's a really scary thought because they have so much power and so much leverage. And I think that this is so big because when you look at a lot of the content that's being posted on Reddit or Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or some of the other places that Amazon Web Services supports. So I'm going to pull up some of the controversial companies that use AWS. Awesome. So there's probably an article about this. Okay, so there's a lot of companies that have used Amazon Web Services that are pretty bad. Um, So we're just going to go through some of these. So, like, let's just talk about content that's been posted. So Netflix, right, has uses Amazon Web Services, right? So, and they recently, yeah, as you go, they had the cuties controversy, and they posted a lot of really, nerve wracking things and a lot of content that honestly a lot of people would find really disturbing, right? Um, so, so surrounding this is, I think it just is a really scary place. Um, okay. So let's just talk about some stuff. So there's a lot of really bad places that use Amazon Web Services, and they draw the line at Parler because they do a lot of things that they don't like, and it's really interesting. It's they have so much power and such an infinite amount of leverage, and this is why I think that there's such an over reliance on big tech, right? If you're a small guy, like, and you don't have the ability to use your Facebook login as your login for, your business or your company, you can fall behind really quickly. Same thing with Google. If you don't have Google Gmail, like, they have a lot of leverage that they can choose either to use or not use, and that's where Parler is honestly in a really really interesting spot because they've garnered a lot of attention because of this. So I'm not even sure if this is going to be net negative for them. But what I do want to, kind of emphasize is that this is not something that is going to stop. This is going to be something that consistently over the next years is going to be a more and more important thing. And one of the big pushes with Parler is that they aren't doing a lot of things with your data. They're not selling it, at least right now. So they really had that edge in terms of market strategy. And when there's all of these controversies were surrounding Facebook and surrounding a lot of these other companies, that's what we really want to make sure that they were doing a good job at. So I'm just going to pull up some information about Parler, and just some of the information surrounding it. So we're going to look at the Parler Wikipedia. 1 second, I'll pull that up. Awesome, I'm back. Okay, so with Parler, 1 sec. Oh, I'm just gonna take that off. Yeah, so with Parler, it's an American alt tech microblogging and networking service. It's very, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So it markets as a free speech and unbiased alternative to mainstream social media networks. Has a far right user base. That's all stuff we know. Yeah, so we're just going to look at just the history of Parler. So it was founded by John Matz Jr. and Jared Thomason in Henderson, Nevada. Yeah, so they also are both an alumni of U Denver, which is really interesting. But they just had this big thing where they had a massive swing of um, users due to just all this controversy surrounding the right, the user base, massive Trump supporters. We already know that. Content moderation. So it's free speech. So it's not like there's no moderation. So it's not that they still. I want to see how they make money. Okay, so let's see how Parler makes money. How Parler makes money. I'm pretty sure it's through ads. How Parler app plans to make its money. Oh wow! So they aren't going to have a centralized ad model, but they're going to have influencers. So they're going to target influencers with a large reach, rather than us as a platform. The idea is that you boycott individual influencers, that content you don't like, not necessarily used as a platform. So it's pretty much like you're going to support an individual creator, like an individual content creator. And then if you don't like other content creators, you don't have to listen to them. That's what they're saying. Yeah, that's really interesting. That's an interesting revenue model. I will say that. Um, yeah, so they have a very partisan user base, which is pretty obvious. But yeah, I'm not sure if that's not even a good revenue model, in my opinion, as a business. I think it's really hard to push that. But hey, man, users at all cost. I think that is very much the name of the game in terms of startups. It's like you get that user base and you hustle it, and you make sure that you can put yourself in a position where you can get those users and you can get all that stuff. That's what's really important. And I think that they needed to do a much, much, much better job of, pushing and pushing and pushing that aspect and that side of their individual like server space, that they needed to invest all that stuff locally. And hey, once you need that, I would not bet on Amazon, man. You see, like if I'm Parler CEO, I'm seeing what Amazon's doing, and you kind of can infer, where they're gonna sit on a lot of this stuff. Like that like the big five. It's the Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google. That like triumvirate of content and media, they all are friends with each other. As much as they want to believe that, Facebook's competing with Twitter, and the Google's competing with Facebook, like that could not be further from the truth. Like the fact that like these companies, they all work together and they both create a lot of things across platform. It's really nerve-wracking to when there's something like this, where there's like that kind of outsider that's kind of nudging its way in and they get kicked out. I think that that's something that we really need to be aware of. And I think Parler, I think their UI sucks. I'm going to be completely honest. I think the app flow is terrible. I think there's a reason why Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, LinkedIn, there's a reason why they're the best. There's a reason why they win. It's because Parler, at least at this stage in time, the app doesn't flow very well. Like genuinely. So I'll show you guys Parler. But yeah, it's still up, which is good. It's still up somehow, and I don't know how they're doing that. And the fact is, they need to be running ads. Like, they got to be running ads, and they got to be pushing hard. Yeah, oh my gosh, wait, so there's a networking error right now, which shouldn't be happening. Parler might be down. No content found. So let's go check if Instagram and Twitter are working, because it might just be a problem on my cell. But I don't think so. But even before, because I was on Parler a little bit ago. But yeah, it's nerve-wracking. I definitely think that even if you're against Parler and that user base, and that you need to de-platform the user base, which I can understand. What happened at the Capitol is a travesty and is horrible, and that no one should look at that lightly, right? The fact that they're deplatforming an entire system, right, is crazy to me. When there is like rampant pornography on Reddit, and there's like a lot of use of this frankly very explicit content, and I get the fact that that's not labeled as dangerous, and then this Parler stuff is honestly astounding to me. So now we're going to talk about Facebook and their recent scandal. So basically what happened with Facebook, I'm pulling up WhatsApp privacy. Yeah, so basically what happened is WhatsApp is basically going to start selling their data and information. And with their new privacy policy, it's going to be able to share your phone number, your IP address, and payments that are made through with Facebook. So all the stuff that your information that is on WhatsApp is now going to be made public to Facebook. And that's very, very important, because imagine you are texting someone in a private chat, right? And you say, you know what, I don't think Donald Trump's that bad, right? Something like that. That then could be sent to Facebook, and they could take away your Facebook account. And that's very, very frightening, and they have the power to do that. Whether they would is another question. I tend to lean on the side of that they wouldn't. But I've been very wrong. The fact that Amazon just kicked Parler off kind of put everything up in the air, because now it's crazy. So, and unless people are agreeing to these terms where WhatsApp is sending all that information to Facebook, your account gets deleted. But yeah, so it's crazy. It's nuts. Yeah, so there's been a massive influx on this platform called Signal. Signal is basically a like a nonprofit, I believe. Um, Signal versus WhatsApp. So that's the alternative that a lot of people are using now due to that WhatsApp privacy scandal with Facebook. So I'm just going to talk about some of the, like, Signal has a lot of oh my gosh. So Signal over this week has had a 42,000% increase. Messaging app. Oh wow. So they use end-to-end encryption, so it's going to be more. Oh wow, this is crazy. Yeah. But yeah, so there's a lot of people that are big fans of Signal, such as Elon Musk and a lot of this stuff, because they're basically just focusing on this digital privacy movement and with a lot of that stuff. So yeah, but yeah, it's crazy. So what I really think is this Parler thing, and this Signal stuff, and I'm like, these are two big things in terms of data and privacy that we need to be, as a consumer, right? You need to be very conscious of. Or if you're an entrepreneur on the tech side, like I am, I'm keeping tabs on all this stuff, because being like, hey, I need, like, if I was thinking about integrating a messaging service into my software, into my company, right? Where am I going to want to do that through? Would I want to do it through WhatsApp or through Signal? Right now, I'm leaning towards Signal because it seems like it's going to be a better thing. But in terms of logins, I think like one click logins is so big and so convenient that I'm not sure if I can't afford to not use it. It's so fast, and if you can create speed, that's what's really big and important. So kind of the next thing, when we're talking about data. So there's an app in the news called Flow My Health. That's a women's health app. There it is. Awesome. So basically, Flow is basically something that helps women, keep track of their menstrual cycles. Oh my sweet Jesus. Okay, so Flow has a user base of 100 million users, and they promised that they wouldn't share their data to advertisers, and that all that stuff would be kept safe. But it's a fertility tracking app. Oh my gosh. So it informed Facebook of in-app activity, and basically what they would do is they would figure out what menstrual cycles women were in, and oh my God. And it would tell them when to advertise certain products. This is insane. This is real. This is real. This is no joke. Like, so no financial penalty happened because of this, right? No financial penalty to Flow, the company, for selling hundreds of millions of women's data, right? When this was something that was supposed to be privacy based, right? This is insane. This is ridiculous. And the fact that these companies can do this stuff and not have to face retribution is honestly astonishing, because this is what we're talking about with this big tech sector and everything that's going on, that you have so much power and leverage. As soon as you hit that like million user mark, you have a lot of power over your customers, and that you want to make sure that if you're contributing to a social media platform, or if you're contributing to an Amazon with your dollars, right, with your money, right, you want to make sure that that money is going to a company that, for one, that are going to give you a lot of value back, and two, are not pushing that value onto someone else. You want to be a conscious consumer, especially with tech. Even more, I think you should be more careful about what technology you use than food you put in your body, right? I think that literally if you're like constantly putting this bad stuff into your mind, I think that that's going to really be unhealthy for you. And if you're contributing to a lot of these factors and putting data into the hands of, frankly, these super villains, you want to make sure that you're putting some money into the little guy, and some money into small businesses and that stuff, and smaller services. I think it's so big, and and the thing is, it's like as you start to do that, that service is going to get better and better and better as it scales, right? This is insane. So pretty much everything you think that the internet knows about you, it knows about you about 10 times as much, right? Like just the other day, as you know, I made that sneaker talk video. That same day, I ended up getting an ad for a bunch of sneakers, and on my Facebook Marketplace, it gave me a bunch of ads for a bunch of sneakers. Not saying that that's a bad thing, but it's just that it knows. They know everything. These big tech companies really understand how to use and manipulate your data. And if you aren't understanding what's happening and making sure it's a consensual exchange, that's what we need to make sure that we're emphasizing, and making sure that it's not just, oh, this is what happened, oh, this is this, it's just a little goof up that we ended up selling your data when we told you we wouldn't. And that's the thing, is that there's not tech companies are not based off of integrity. And that's why with Ocean, come full circle, that's why Ocean, like, our biggest thing is integrity. We're going to be very honest and transparent with what we're doing with your data and information. This is exactly what's happening. Here is where your advertising dollars are going, and we're going to be very, very transparent. And I think by transparency with small businesses is going to create a competitive advantage in the market. By us saying, hey, this is how we are making these competitive landscapes for you. Like, in being very transparent and being like, hey, this is like when you're this is where you're advertising your page. Hey, this competitor is running this ad, and you'll be able to see that stuff. And we're going to be very transparent with you. And so then you don't feel like, hey, this is a bad thing. Like, I'm going to make sure that everyone knows the brands that are mine. Like, because the thing is, my goal is to create a platform, and I wanted to create a cool piece of service that I wanted for my brands that I was creating. And then along with that, I wanted to make sure that I'm emphasizing the other businesses even more so than mine. I'm not going to promote my pages over yours ever. That's a big priority of mine. That just is how it goes if you want. Because my goal is to prioritize the small business at all costs. And we're a small business focused tech company. And that's where the focus is, and that's where my intention is. And I just like business, so I'm gonna set up businesses because that's just who I am. And I believe that Ocean's the best way to do that, and full-heartedly. Maybe not at this stage, but I think down the road it's definitely going to be. So I want to make sure that I can create it really long term. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of this stuff. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's honestly sickening a little bit. It's just, imagine the most intimate, like, information that you give to an application that's used against you. Like, that's the thing. Another thing that happened with Google a couple months ago. They actually had a massive lawsuit because they were still tracking your data when you're in incognito mode. So then there's all these memes that was like, imagine if, like, the worst thing you've ever searched in incognito mode, they put that next to your face, and then that was like your mugshot. Like, it's like that stuff happens, and they have that access to that information. It's just terrifying. And what's a really scary thing is, if you guys have watched The Social Dilemma, most of the biggest engineers and tech companies and all of that stuff, as they start to go and raise kids, they're not letting their kids use these social medias. And if that doesn't just absolutely terrify you, I don't know what will. Like, it's horrible. But yeah, it's with this Parler stuff and this Flow controversy. Yeah, and literally with the FTC slap. So, yep, it's terrifying, and it's this big tech space, and I think that we need someone that's going to go shake up the system really bad. I think it's probably going to be me. There's my cocky self. But I do genuinely believe that Ocean Connection could shake up things. When I create a page and a wall for small businesses and stuff, make sure that I'm moderating it, having it all on my servers, right, doing all that stuff, right? That's really freaking important in that I can create these things in the software and making it in a really good way, and creating all these different tools and resources within my own software to bring value to people and businesses and consumers. It's like making it more social and more interactive, making with an e-commerce platform, so you're getting that more personal connection. That's something that I very much prioritize, and that I'm going to make sure is one of the long-term goals for Ocean Connection and everything. Like that's where I see it is. I think there's going to be a lot of guys like me that are going to go shake things up. I think that as much as I'm still hoping that these guys get regulated, even if they don't, I think if you make the best freaking product, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter how big they are. If you make a better product and a better service, you're going to win. And that's my goal. My goal is genuinely to do that. And how can I do more with less? Right? That's my biggest thing. It's like, how can I get my company further along than my competitors by spending less? Right? And how can I make sure that I'm emphasizing and growing in a way that is really going to be helpful for others? So what I've been seeing is I think that content's the edge. I think that that's the advantage I have. I think by running podcasts, interviewing cool people, starting to grow my personal audience base, by throwing that and by offering value and by giving a lot of these things, by posting, by getting more people posting, just talking about these different things, by partnering with cool people that are doing cool stuff, right? I think that that's the best way to grow and scale an e-commerce platform for small businesses, and that's what I'm doing for my little tech startup. I think that that's just so big and so important that I just am emphasizing it every day, because that's why in my company, one of the biggest things is always going to be content, because I think content is the X. I think that's the X factor. I think, text needs to be good. Obviously, we're going to have a phenomenal product. Right now I'm working on the website and everything, and I'm redoing a lot of the stuff. But really, I want to make sure that I can get on that same page and hustle and grind for these small businesses, and that I can help them, I have a phenomenal product, right? How can I make people know about the product? And I think the only way to do that is by making really entertaining and engaging ads, by creating a lot of like content, me personally, right? By making, comedy skits, whatever, making that the X, and then really growing and scaling outwards. Because, man, all the business TikToks all sound the same, and they all kind of suck. It's like, oh, here's how you do Forex trading, and then it's just stupid. But my goal is to not do that. I want to make sure that I'm creating engaging, value-based content that's really going to be, engaging to watch, and also entertaining and kind of funny, because I'm not a serious dude most of the time. But yeah, this stuff is terrifying, and if it doesn't terrify you, just imagine if it's like, what, there's this, there's a lot of people that support BLM on Facebook, so we should just stop supporting them and we should take them off, right? Or there's all these people that are supporting Joe Biden on this platform, and Joe Biden said something racist, and that means that they're all racist, obviously. So now we should take that off of online. There used to be with so with Title 205, I think it's what it is. Title 205, the moderation clause in tech. Section 230, yes. Section 230 just talks about moderation of like content, and so basically it started off talking about like there's exceptions to copyright violations. So whether like the things that people post, whether it's their job to moderate it or not. So it's like it protects websites from people that post something illegal, like copyright violations, sex work related material, or violations of federal criminal law, right? So with all that stuff, and that's like pretty much the free speech clause. It would basically, and what it happened is it made it so websites and tech companies would not want to touch anything on there, and that's what Section 230 did, and it's pretty much the only thing that supports and protects internet speech. But yeah, so it basically allowed a lot of people to like manipulate it. Um, yeah, this is crazy. So, and this is very left. This is a super left leaning article, which isn't a bad thing. But it's like it's oh wow. Um, so yeah, so there's been a lot of stuff that's just talking about like regulations to tech companies and yeah, and oh my gosh. So Biden said recently that t- Section 230, which is that they aren't held responsible for the content of their users, right? He said it should be revoked because it is not merely an internet company is propagating falsehoods they know to be false, right? So that just means whatever the tech company deems as false, they'll just take off, right? Whatever they think they need to do. So that is really scary because think about all the disagreements that even like if you're a very liberal person, think about the things that you wish Facebook would have done, right? That's their judgment, and you're basically putting more power into the hands of these tech companies in order to regulate our morality, right? Which I think is just terrifying, and that these tech companies need to make sure that they're creating an open platform and that they aren't segregating and making these things bad and that they're keeping some ideas separate from others. We want to make sure that they're having this open course of dialogue that just doesn't exist anymore. Like even on Facebook, imagine your aunt posts that, super pro Trump post and it just gets flagged and then her account gets deleted, right? That's really scary. But imagine someone posts something from Joe Biden, but then Joe Biden said something that's against Facebook and they decide, you know what, this is actually, propagating some threat against America because a threat against America is a threat against Facebook or whatever, right? Then they delete that. That's when I think more people are going to get upset. It's like it's very easy to be like, oh, it's just the radicals that are getting knocked off. Everyone else is fine, but it's a very slippery slope that I think because everyone tweets stupid crap. Freaking everyone. I guarantee if like there's some I'm gonna go look up some crazy Joe Biden tweets, right? So Joe Biden tweets. So what's some deleted tweets from Joe Biden? So let's look at it. Okay, so he deleted this tweet that said former Mayor Pete doesn't think very highly of the Obama Biden record. Let's compare, right? And then later, oh my gosh, it's so funny. He says Mayor Pete Buttigieg is a barrier-speaking public servant with a track record of forward-thinking leadership. Tune in as I nominate him for the next Secretary of Transportation, and then it has the link. Right. Like all these are these he's slammed people. Oh, he also said the COVID-10 crisis. Um, yeah, but there's a lot of things that Joe Biden's tweeted, and I honestly would probably bet that it's not even him, that he wished that he didn't tweet. But imagine you aren't able to even have those tweets that you wish you didn't tweet. Awesome. So I'm looking at her controversial tweets. So let's just go look at it. Oh wow, it's not even. Oh my gosh, this is scary. I don't think she's perfect. but it's not showing any tweets of hers that she's been under fire for. And I can almost guarantee that there's some tweet. Oh yeah, so she got flack in the Hindu community for posting something. Um, that's crazy. But yeah, there's been a couple controversies surrounding everyone's Twitter accounts, and everyone has something on Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat or whatever that they wishes that they could take back. And that's just, and I think it's really scary that could just, you might not even have that. And like where there's people that can show that they grew as people. It's just that I think that there's, if you look up almost any like celebrity, there's always a tweet controversy associated with them. There's gonna be something, and I think that this is what we got to keep aware of for the next upcoming years. That we got to make sure that we're not silencing ideas or silencing people. Even if I disagree, here's the thing: if you disagree with me on something, and I just, like, let's say that someone posts something that I disagree with on Ocean Connection, right? And I just decide, you know what, I'm going to delete this person's account because, heck them, right? That there's no legal ramifications for me in that circumstance because I have, it's a private company. I can do whatever I want. So it's just scary. It's scary, and that people just aren't allowing those voices to be heard anymore. And I think that we need to, as much as you disagree with someone on the right or the left, we need to make sure that these tech companies are being held responsible for not silencing people. Like, it's not, I think moderating content is good. You should do it. But I think that if you're moderating ideas, it's different. If, like, I think any text I think is fine. Any text, I think images, I think you could talk about, you know, regulating if someone's like doing something like holding like Joe Biden's head or something. Right, or like in like a beheading picture or something, like stuff like that. I think we should be taken off, but I think that you can say, "Hey, I don't like Joe Biden," and that's okay. I think, or like, "Hey, I hate Donald Trump." I think that's also okay. I just have seen. I think that when it's leaning one way over the other, I think that that's scary. I think that it's very rare to have a neutral platform, and I think it doesn't exist at this moment. But yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna head to bed right now. I appreciate it, y'all. Thank you for listening to the Tech Talk. But yeah, make sure that you realize where your date is going. I hope everyone's having a great rest of your day, and thank you.